So I think it's about time we do our accessory drive. Alright guys, it is that time. Today we're going to install our accessory drive, which is an alternator only accessory drive from LSX Innovations. For those of you who maybe this is your first video on the channel and you didn't see the original video where we got all this stuff, here's the deal. I am using a Camaro / Corvette style water pump in this application. So we're going to be using some water pump spacers that are also tapped for a fitting for our steam port. We have a low mount alternator bracket from LSX Innovations. And then to, keep belts from flying off and stuff like that at higher RPMs, we're going to use this manual tensioner setup also from LSX Innovations. Now the low mount alternator kit, it actually comes with this bracket. This reinforcement bracket. If you're using a Camaro style alternator, then this bracket will go on the back. We're using a truck style alternator, so we're not going to be using that bracket. Also, because we're using a truck block, we've got our kit here to drill and tap the block for the hole that is there on LS1 blocks, but not there on truck blocks. So that's what this kit is here. It's got a spacer guide, a drill bit, a tap to tap the hole, and then our bolt that we're going to need. Because that's going to require the most amount of effort, we're going to start off with the easiest stuff first, and we're going to install our manual tensioner onto our water pump. I have our instructions here that came with the tensioner, and the first thing it's going to do is have us assemble the tensioner. So let's see here. Looks like we flip it around like so, and this guy here, it says install the M10 1.5 30 millimeter long bolt, and this is a flathead bolt, so it's this guy right here. So it's pretty obvious where it goes in here. It's just going to drop right down through here, and that's our pivot bolt, guys. So you don't want to tighten that all the way up right off the bat. You're going to leave that loose because that's what's going to allow you to adjust the tension. So we're going to take the shortest bolt in the bag. We're going to flip our tensioner around and thread that bolt in here. And of course, that's our tension bolt. So we're going to leave him loose too. So, once we adjust the tension on our tensioner here, we're going to tighten that bolt, and then we'll come around and snug that bolt up. Now we have 3 bolts left. 2 of them are the same size. One's a little bit shorter. We're going to take the little bit shorter one, and we're going to take our washer. We're going to put it on there. We're going to take our pulley here. I don't think it matters which side you go through, but this side looks better, so we're going to leave it facing out. We're going to put that in, or put our pulley onto our little guide here. See how that goes. We're going to thread this guy in. We're going to pull our water pump over here. Flip this up so you can see what I'm doing. Kinda, sorta. Neato. We got our 2 spacers here. They're going to go on the back side. We're going to run a bolt through each one of them. Just like that. And we're going to bolt this guy to our Corvette / Camaro style water pump. The balancer or crank pulley, whatever you want to call it, we're using the one off a truck, which sticks out further than a Corvette or a Camaro does. So I think that's what these spacers are for, because I had him send me the setup for that, to use the truck spacing. And it says to tighten these bolts to 37 foot-pounds. So 15 millimeter bolt, 37 foot-pounds. Here we go. And of course this would be easier if we had our water pump already mounted on the car, but no biggie, because we've got upper body strength. So there we go. Now it says slide the arm all the way to the right and tighten the pulley bolt also to 37 foot-pounds. Same thing, 15 millimeter and 37 foot-pounds. So here's our water pump spacer kit, and again, because I'm using the truck spacing, you know, we're going to need to space the water pump out. I did this on purpose so that I could use this tap here. I could have just used a truck water pump. These would not have been necessary. I could have just tapped the top of the water pump for my steam port like I usually do. I've got reasons that we'll go over later in this build why I didn't want to do that this time. So we got our spacers here. The first thing we're going to do is take our package, and LSX Innovations always sends you Fastenal gear, you know, really good nuts and bolts and things. So we're going to take this, we're going to get our little nipple here, and we're going to go ahead and thread that into our water pump spacer that's tapped for it here. And we'll use our 7/16 wrench to torque that down. Now this is an NPT fitting, guys. So what that means is as you screw it in, it's going to get tighter and tighter. So you really don't need any thread dope on this. Just get it good and snug, and it shouldn't leak. Alright, that should get it. Now they give you these flat paper style Molle gaskets with their kit. If you're used to working on LS engines, you know, usually with a water pump, you're dealing with these. You know, these are the aluminum gaskets with the O-rings built into them. But you have to use these with the spacer kit, guys, because of the thickness, okay? All of these together probably still are not as thick as just one of these metal O-ring gaskets. So in order to keep your belt spacing, everything lined up properly, use the gaskets that are included. Don't try to use your factory hardware. Now we are getting ready to put our water pump on, and they have included, woo, I'm dropping stuff. They have included some 13 millimeter bolts and washers that are the proper length that you're going to need. So we're going to get our gaskets out. And in case you ever need replacement gaskets, here's the part number from Molle. It is K31627. Like I said, you could use a truck pump and not have to use these at all, but I chose to do it this way. So the one with the nipple on it, we're going to want to put it over here on the passenger side because that's where we want our nipple. So we're going to set our gasket on here. We're going to take one of our bolts, the washer. Obviously, that goes in the front of the pump, just like so. We're going to slide this on. Another bolt, another washer. I said another bolt, another washer. And slide that in. That should keep our gasket aligned. And now we're going to take another gasket, slide it on here, just like that. I'm going to do the same thing over here on this side. Then we're just simply going to take the pump over there, set it on the car, and screw our bolts in. Now, I'm sorry I can't get you a better camera angle on this. A lot of you already know, but I broke my little selfie stick tripod mount thing a while back. I have ordered another one, but with everything going on in the world right now, shipping is taking forever on stuff, guys. So I'm sure you know what I'm talking about, but no biggie. I'm going to take my last 2 bolts. Remember, we put 2 in on each side to use to kind of hold the gaskets in place. So now I can slip my 3rd bolt into each side. Once we have them started, we can go ahead and tighten them up. Now at this point, if all is right with the world, you should be able to look down and your idler pulley, or I'm sorry, your tensioner pulley here, should be aligned with your crank pulley. I know it's probably kind of hard to see on camera, and it's really hard for me to get it to where it looks like it's aligned, but I believe we're good. Next part is where things get a little crazy, because the problem is this low mount alternator bracket, it mounts by this hole here and this hole here. As you can see on the truck blocks, we have the bottom hole right there, but there is no top hole right here. So what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to drill a hole right here for the 2nd bolt and tap it. And that's what our little kit right here is for. So you can see in the kit, as I mentioned earlier, you've got a drill bit, you've got the bolt that you're ultimately going to be using, and then you've got these little spacer slash guides here. We'll just set them here. There's your tap. Now in order to tap that hole, you also have to, already have this lower bracket, because these guys here actually use the lower bracket to align it and make sure that your drill bit goes exactly where and at the angle that it needs to go at. That way you don't get the hole slightly off or get the hole crooked or anything like that. Here's how we're going to do this. We are going to take our bracket. We're going to take one of our spacer guides here, preferably the one with the largest hole. In my case, one of them allows the drill bit to move around a little more than the other. Well, I want the one that doesn't allow the drill bit to move around at all to use it with the drill bit. So I'm going to take the other one. It's going to slide into here, and then the included bolt is going to go in here, and we're going to go ahead and thread this into the lower bolt hole that I showed you on the engine block earlier. What we're going to do now is we're going to take our guide bushing and we're going to slip it into our bracket, and we're going to bring our bracket around, and we are going to align this bushing to where the curve of it follows the curve of our engine block, and then we're going to tighten our bottom bolt down to hold it there. Now the instructions say to use our letter R drill bit. In case you guys don't know what the hell a letter R drill bit is, it's instead of numbers, they're letters. I think it's pretty close to the same thing as, was it an 11/32 drill bit, I think. Don't quote me on that, but anyway, yes, they use letters. So the R drill bit, it says to drill 1 to 1 1/4 inches deep. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tape measure. I'm going to measure off about 1 1/4 inches on this drill bit, and I'm going to put me a piece of tape around the drill bit here to mark it so I don't drill too deep. Guys, I think I may have forgot to start my camera, but I ended up having to I didn't think about the thickness of all this, so I bottomed the drill bit out in there. Then I measured 1 1/4 inches back and marked it with tape again, and I'm just going to go ahead and drill it. I'm not going to make you guys watch that process because it's probably going to take a while. Alright, that actually did not take long at all, guys. So the trick is to make sure you drill a little bit and then, pull it back a little bit to get all the debris out of the way. And if you do that like every 1/4 inch or so, I mean, it eats right into the block. Like, that didn't take long at all. I figured I was going to be standing up here drilling for like 10 minutes, but it was like, if I had to guess, probably 2 or 3 minutes, and I was through. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my bracket off, and I'm going to run my tap in there and tap it with some threads. Just wanted to show you using that bracket, you know, the little kit there. You know, that hole is exactly in the center of that round spot, exactly where it should be. And again, guys, if you've got like a LS1 block, this hole is already there on the LS1 block because they already use a low mount alternator, so that hole will already be there. I have never seen a truck block that had that hole on it already, but they may exist. I'm not 100% sure, but I can just tell you what I know, and I know I've never seen one. Here is the fun or tedious part, depending on who you are. We have all seen the videos of people taking these taps, sticking them in a drill, and they're like, and done. You know, the hole's tapped. I'm here to tell you, I have tried that 2 different occasions in my life, and both have resulted in the same thing, and that is the tap breaking off in what I was trying to tap. So, we named this channel Bad Luck Garage for a reason, guys. So we can't really take any chances. Because with the luck I have, yeah, that's exactly what will happen, is I'll end up breaking that thing off in the block. So what we're going to do, we're actually going to use a tap holder, and I'm not going to make you watch me do this because it is going to take a while, and we're going to run it in by hand. I'm going to put a little grease on it right there to help lubricate it. But basically, we're going to go in a few threads, then back out. Then in, then back out. That just helps push any debris out. Now the debris is supposed to get caught on these flutes in the tap here, but you know, a little extra precaution helps sometimes. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to start running this baby in. Alright, so I finished tapping the block. I already checked to make sure this bolt would go in, and it goes in easily. So we're good to go there. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my tap, which is wedged apparently in my tap holder. But I'm going to put this all back together as a kit with the drill bit, the spacers, the bolt, and the instructions. We're going to put it in one of the boxes that we got here, and we'll label it, put it up on the shelf. So after I sling a rod through this block, we'll have this to tap the next block. So it looks like we're going to install these 2 really long bolts through the bracket. And I believe they each get one of these washers on them. That's what it looks like from the picture. One in the bottom. One up there for the hole we just drilled. I guess the alternator mounts like this. One goes through here. And one goes through here, just like that. And then one of these spacers goes on each of these, and then that screws into the block. This makes sense set up like this because with it like this, you should be able to easily get to your alternator plug here. This guy down here is going to be kind of iffy to get to. There's a brace down there on my Camaro, so I don't know. Now, the rest of these parts, well, not all of them, some of them are going for the pulley, which we're going to talk about in a minute, but I believe this spacer and this bracket, these only work with an F-body alternator. There's another bolt hole there, and it's just a brace for the back side of it, so we won't be using that. Also, because we are not using power steering on this car, this, he actually sent me this. This does not come with the kit, but he sent me this this idler pulley here. Well, because we're running a alternator only setup, we're not going to be able to use this. What we're going to actually have to do, take the ribbed pulley off of our old idler bracket and transfer it over to here. Now, if you don't have an idler bracket, they do have those available for purchase at LSX Innovations. You just need to let them know that you're going to need it when you're ordering all your kit here, and you know, he can throw you one in there for a little extra. So just like I talked about on the bench, I'm going to go over here, And our 2 bolt holes should line up perfect now. It's kind of a handful to hold, guys, I'm not gonna lie. Got the bottom one started a little bit. Bring our top one up. And it should, yep, lined up perfect. And again with our 15 millimeter. No, these are not 15 millimeter. I believe they're probably 17 millimeter. Yep. Now, I didn't snug these up all the way yet. I'm just kind of looking and seeing if my pulleys are going to line up, and it looks like they are. So I'm going to go ahead and torque these down now. And since everything else is being torqued to 37 foot-pounds, I'm going to do the same with these bolts. 37. And that seems pretty dang solid to me. And now that I'm looking, guys, I don't think I'm going to have any trouble getting to the back side of this alternator to bolt my charging cable on. There seems to be, well, plenty of room between this little corner bracket here and where I've got to go. So this is the little corner bracket I was telling you about here on my Camaro. And if you go around to the back, I mean, there's plenty of room. I can get my hand between it, and you can see my charging lug. I don't know if you can or not down there. And then right here is where we plug our exciter wire into. So yeah, plenty of room. You can kind of see how everything's laid out. Let me find my idler pulley so I can rob my it'll be a pulley just like this, guys, but I've got to rob it off my idler, my old idler. So story time. I could not find my idler. It's laying around here somewhere, but I just checked the pulley on my old tensioner, the truck tensioner. And it looks like it is the same diameter as this guy here. So we're going to use that. And it seems like it needs some grease in it. So I'll pop the seals out and re-grease this later. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and install it. So if we look at the bolts left in the kit here, we got this thick long boy and this thick flat washer. So we're going to slide this onto our bracket, just like that. And then we're going to screw this guy in, and we're back on that 15 kick. And we'll go ahead and do 37 foot-pounds on this boy too. All right, so I think everything is lining up pretty well. At this point, what we need to do is run our belt. Well, obviously we don't have a belt yet. I'm going to figure out what part number this belt will be, and well, I'm going to put it in this video. So what it recommends you do is take a piece of string and tie it around here. And what I would recommend doing, if you're using one of these manual tensioners, what you're probably going to want to do to give yourself room to put the belt on, I would adjust this tensioner to about the halfway point. I mean, that's, you know, that's what I'm recommending. If you put it at the halfway point and you wrap your string or whatever around all your pulleys, then when you go, and if you get an exact measurement and get that exact size belt, then you're going to be able to lay it down here loose to get your belt on, and then bring it to halfway, and it should just start to put tension on it. And then, of course, you know, that gives you a whole, like this much range, you know, to adjust tension. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to snug it up about halfway. I've actually got an old belt, so what I might try to do first, there we go, I think that's about halfway. So what I might try to do first is just cut that old belt and wrap it around on my pulleys the way it needs to go, and see if I can do that. If I can't get that to work out, then, you know, I'll find me a piece of wire or string or something and do it the way they recommend. But here's the routing, guys. And again, it's only routed this way because I'm doing an alternator only setup. I have no power steering pump. But I do want to make clear, they have another bracket that bolts up here and uses a Camaro style power steering pump and reservoir with this setup. The reason he did not send me that is because he is, you know, fairly certain that it's not going to work with these up and over headers. But I'm kind of looking, and I don't know, guys, at some point what we might do is I might holler at LSX Innovation and have them send me this upper bracket for power steering, and, you know, I'll get a Camaro style power steering pump and reservoir, and we'll just see if it'll work with these up and over headers, just so everybody will know for sure if it does or doesn't. And if it does work, hell, guys, we might end up with power steering back on this car. I don't know. You can see for now we looped it in another video, but I'm not gonna lie, guys, I mean, if I can put power steering on this car, I'll put it on there. The whole reason I'm not running it is just for simplicity, really, because this car is only going to be going in a straight line. This is not going to be a street car, so I wasn't real worried about the power steering. But if it works out that I can use it and it won't be in the way or cause me any problems, then hell yeah, I mean, I'll put it on here. So here's your routing with the alternator only setup. You're going to wrap around, let's make sure you can see. You're going to go from your crank pulley here. Obviously, you're going to come up. You're going to come around here. The belt is going to come under your water pump, over the top of this pulley, over the top of your alternator pulley, and then back down under the crank, if that makes sense. That's the only way that, yeah, that's pretty much the only way I can see to run it. And now if we had our power steering pump up here, then we would have put our smooth pulley on here that LSX Innovation sent us, and the routing would be the same, except for from here it would have went it would have, I think, went under this and then over the power steering pulley and then around that and around the crank. I'm not sure. I'm not going to worry about it because I don't have power steering. All right, guys, so I just wanted to run this to kind of show you how this goes as far as how it's routed. So hopefully you can kind of see what's going on here. It's going around the water pump, around here. So this is just a belt that I've marked to measure, to, you know, go to the store and find the right part number belt. But here's the deal, guys. You're not going to get to see that tonight because tomorrow my cousin Brad is coming over. We're going to finish cutting off, modifying these headers, and building the exhaust that's going to go out each fender here for the fender exit. So I'm not going to be able to wait until tomorrow. I need to go ahead and throw the radiator back in, the cooling fan, hook our transmission lines up, because we're going to need all that hooked up so we can figure out exactly where we're going to route all this exhaust. So here's what I'm going to do for you guys. I'm going to measure the belt where I marked it here real quick and give you guys the measurements. But as far as the actual part number of the belt, I will put that in the description of this video for you, along with links to the manual tensioner, the TSP water pump that we got from Poor Man Motorsports, and let's see here, the bracket to mount the low mount alternator bracket. What else did we get? The water pump spacers that you can see back here, and of course the kit to drill that. I'm going to put links for all that in the video description. So if you guys are building a drag car or whatever, you want to do this alternator only low mount setup, you can do that. Or if you're wanting to go with the power steering setup with this same bracket setup, you can do that as well. But I would recommend, just for fitment purposes, I would recommend that you call or email LSX Innovations before you order that setup, just to make sure it is what you need. Justin at LSX Innovations is really good about figuring out what you need. That's pretty much what he did to me. I sent him pictures of my setup, told him what I was looking for, and he recommended all the parts and shipped them to me. So after measuring the belt, I came up with exactly 56 inches. So I'm going to go to the auto parts store in the morning before I publish this video. I will find the correct part number belt, but again, I did measure 56 inches, but I'll put that part number with the part number for all these things in the description of this video. So that's pretty much it, guys. This was an easy install, and actually drilling and tapping that hole was way easier than I thought it was going to be. But that's how you install everything with the LSX Innovations low mount alternator bracket kit. So once again, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe if you want to see more. Remember, there's a whole playlist with this car. There's a playlist for the China Vet. There's a playlist for Project Steppenwolf, for the DR Nova. You get the picture. There's a playlist for every build on this channel. If you're wondering what the specs are on the builds, what the plans are for the builds, anything like that. So thanks again for watching, guys. Now get out in the garage, get something done, and I'll see you next time here on Bad Luck Garage.